Hi, I'm Rob. Welcome to another episode of Arcade Room Reviews. If you didn't watch the previous episode, it was Clerks 3. If you did not see the film Clerks 3, I highly recommend you go see that first because I go into very, very deep spoiler talk. Today I'm talking about a classic, in my opinion, or a modern day one, The Mummy from 1999, starring Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz. I feel like anyone from my generation has seen this film. It is that classic adventure style movie in the vein of like Indiana Jones and stuff. That being said, I'm just going to talk about how I feel about it and what I wish they would have done with the series. In this film, it basically starts with a backdrop from Oded, Feher, Carlos from Resident Evil, actually, and the Gigolo from Despicable Male Gigolo, who isn't Rob Schneider. I would have liked to seen him in more stuff. I really liked him in this, though. Fantastic as the Magi. He basically is narrating, telling you the backstory of Imhotep, how him and Anaxamun were having an affair behind the pharaoh's back, and how the pharaoh was going to basically kill them, and then he ends up getting killed by them instead. Anaxamun gets killed instantly. Imhotep gets the worst fate imaginable, and he's mummified alive. And they go into that in the movie where his brains are basically ripped out and his tongue's ripped off and all this horrible stuff. Then it goes to Brendan Fraser and Hamunaptra, the city of gold and riches and all this other great stuff. And he and his friends are excavating. They get attacked. They scatter. Benny basically hides in the city, locks Rick out. And Rick is unintentionally saved by Imhotep because the sand and stuff, the horse gets scared of the land itself, run away, and then the sand basically goes crazy, makes a face, and Rick escapes, seeing the Magi. The Magi are like, cool, it's safe, because you find out later in the film, they've been protecting that land for 3,000 years to keep Imhotep at bay, effectively. Then you go to Rachel, and between that and seeing Rachel Weisz's character, somehow Brendan Fraser gets locked in prison and actually robbed by Jonathan, because Jonathan steals a treasure from him, which it contains the map to Hamunaptra. When he goes to see Evie at her job in the library, he shows it to her. Evie wants to know where she got it, so they go to actually get Rick O'Connell out of jail. So they meet him. He's basically about to get executed, so nick of time, plot convenience. And what happens then is Evie is meeting with the warden while Rick is dangling to his death. He's hanging there, and she explains he knows where Hamunaptra is, the city of the gold, the land of legend, all this stuff. And they're arguing semantics about percentages of how much the warden and Evie can cut, where Evie wins. I think she cuts him down at like 45% or something like that after he already wanted 50 and he got her to go. Like, it was really funny. It was like some Looney Tunes stuff while Rick's sitting there dangling. So they cut him down. They all agree to go. And what happens then is Rachel Weisz is talking to Jonathan about how much of a pig and this, that, and the third Rick is. And then glowed up Brendan Fraser comes, and we all the same thought, which is hello, because he looks straight up gorgeous in that film. And then from there, they board the boat. People attack the boat, basically burn it all down, separates the boat, or separates Benny and Rick again, because in the boat, I'm sorry, I got a little help myself. On the boat, Rick and Benny meet up, and Rick meets the villains, quote unquote. I wouldn't even call them that. It's just the other team. They're all trying to get the Hamunaptra. It's basically a race for this gold. They burn down the boat. They're on separate sides of the river, which leads to one of my favorite exchanges in all of cinema, which was Benny going, "O'Connell, I have all of the horses," and Rick responds, smiling like it's Christmas, "Looks like you're on the wrong side of the river." And then Benny takes a minute and realizes it and just straight kicks the water. It's fantastic. And then from there, they all end up at Hamunaptra after a little bit. But before that, Evie needs more clothes. So Evie has her glow up scene where Rick is doing the same thing Evie did, where it's like, "Oh, well, your sister's pushy and this, that, and the third." And then he sees her in the Egyptian garb and just stops dead in his track like everyone watching the movie did. And I thought that was a really nice symmetry there, where they each were like, "Oh, this person's this, that, and the third." And then they see him in a different light and they're like, never mind. I was completely wrong and I apologize. But yeah, they get to Hamunaptra. They wait for the sunrise. It shows them the way, and they both race there. They both start excavating different sides of the thing, the dig site. And what happens is one team finds the jars that contain what Imhotep is after, and whoever opens it is actually cursed. That comes up through a lot of the film. And then the other team, Rick's team, finds Imhotep himself and the book. Not the book. They find Imhotep himself, and the other team find the book. Evie steals the book, reads from it, and basically causes Imhotep to arise. And when Imhotep arises, anyone who opens the book is basically cursed, and he's going to suck them dry like a damn Capri Sun and leave them looking like human grapes through the entire film. One dude gets his eyes and tongue ripped out first, and everyone else just kind of gets drained. I thought it would have been cooler if each person he had to take something different from. Like, he took the eyes and tongue from that guy. He took the skin from that guy. He took the lungs and the heart from another guy. Like bit by bit, like each person has to give up something different, almost like a Jeepers Creepers style thing. But they kind of do the one, and then the rest just kind of are all the same, where it's like bad CGI and then whatever. But for 90s CGI, I guess it's fine. So as this is all happening, Imhotep's trying to become whole. They're all these plagues are happening because she read from the book and accidentally released Imhotep. And what happens then is Benny, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself again, but Benny finds Imhotep as a mummified zombie, basically. They strike a deal because he's going through every language he can and everything in between. So Benny's helping him track down these other people to save his own skin. He does find them all, like I said. And then at a certain point in the film, they're trying to figure out a way to stop him. They meet the Magi. This is where Rachel Weisz's character, Evie, finds out that her boss actually works, or is part of the Magi, I should say. And they all just try to work together to figure out how to stop Imhotep. After they figure out how to stop Imhotep, because she's translating something that Pembridge scholars couldn't figure out, and then she even, in a little moment of victory, says, "Take that, Pembridge scholars." Because honestly, who wouldn't in that situation? You figured out something that took them centuries to crack, or couldn't crack, in about 5 seconds, which good on her, but again, plot convenience. But that being said, the Imhotep hypnotizes the whole town to hunt them down. They basically make a deal to give Rachel Weisz to Imhotep because he looks like a Nox on the Moon. You find out she is the reincarnation of a Nox on the Moon in the sequel. But in that moment of him giving him up, it was basically like to save them. Like, I'll go with him if you let them live. And Imhotep says to kill him anyway. But they escape. The way they found out how to beat Imhotep was with the Book of Ra. They get the Book of Ra, and then basically have to rush back to Imhotep to stop him, because he has to go back to Hamunaptra with Evie in order to perform the ritual. When they get the Hamunaptra, that's when they find all the gold, and Jonathan the whole time is like a kid in a candy shop trying to steal it, and Rick O'Connell and the Magi, Oded Feher's character, have to keep him on track in order to get the job done and save Rachel Weisz's character Evie, because he's mid-ritual. In the process of this, they do eventually have to take out some other mummies, which Imhotep summons to take care of them. I believe they're supposed to be his priests from the beginning of the film. I can't remember for sure, not gonna lie. I don't know if they explain it or not. But in the process of that, they eventually take them out and save Evie. Evie reads from the Book of Ra to stop Imhotep and make him human. And that's when they stab him. Imhotep dies, and Nox on the Moon and everything. Nox on the Moon was actually killed by the mummies. I'm sorry, I fast forward a little bit past that. But Evie reads from the book, or Jonathan does, turns it back on them, and then they save Evie, turn her human, or turn Imhotep, Evie turns Imhotep human, and then Rick O'Connell kills him. And in this, Benny accidentally sets off self-destruct on the cave, and they all have to escape. Benny gets trapped in the cave, which again leads to one of the better responses, where Rick's trying to save him, like, grab my hand. He's like, goodbye, Benny. And then he just leaves him there. After all this, what happens is they ride off into the sunset. Jonathan's salty, he has no money, but they don't realize they're like Paul Walker in Fast 2, where their pockets ain't empty because the camel is stuffed. So they actually use that to finance other digs in later films, which I thought was a nice little, like, this is how they get their money, plot convenience in case we want to make a sequel. That being said, I don't know how this didn't get more sequels. And I say that as a weird statement when you realize that there's 9 of these. There's 4 mummies and 5 Scorpion Kings. And yes, there's 5 Scorpion Kings. It's weird. And it has Billy Zane, because that's a requirement for anything that goes direct to video. But for a franchise that has 9 movies and I want more, that's an interesting statement. But what I wanted was more good ones. So with the Scorpion King, I didn't need 5 Scorpion Kings. They said all they really needed to with the first one. The second one's fine, the third one's okay, and then I haven't seen the other 2, so I can't speak on them, but probably not great. Mommy Returns is good, and Mommy Curse of the Dragon Emperor, not great, and then the Mommy 2017 film with Tom Cruise, basically American and Werewolf in London if it was really bad, I'll be honest. But what I really would have liked to see them do with Rick O'Connell is have him, like, he already beat Imhotep twice, so what you should have done then is the Halloween 2 approach, where you basically make Rick O'Connell the new Van Helsing type character, where he has to deal with all this other Universal monster characters. Because they made Van Helsing around the same time. I think 3 years after Mommy Returns was Van Helsing, which I think maybe I'm the only one who liked that movie, honestly. But you could have had Rick O'Connell. Like, Rick O'Connell has all this money, he has all these riches. He's a world-renowned exhibitionist. There's no reason you couldn't find underground temple. Oh, you have to go investigate, and that's Gilman's lair. Or, oh, we found these ancient ruins in Transylvania, and oh, that's Dracula. Or there's this castle that hasn't been discovered in X amount of time in wherever, or London, I guess, would be where the Wolfman's from. Yes. And you could have him really do all this, fighting all this, dealing with all this stuff, and have that go, and it would always feel fresh. It would always feel a little different because he's an archaeologist, and he's just a guy who knows what he's doing in those situations. He's an Indiana Jones as character, so it's almost like you divide Indiana Jones into like a romantic couple and could have just went with it. And I feel like it was a very missed opportunity from Universal, and it's a shame because obviously Universal has faith in the Mummy movies. They literally tried to start the Dark Universe and announced a whole franchise before that even took off. And we all know how that went, because where's that Wolfman movie or Bride of Frankenstein movie? Thank God Invisible Man was good, though. But that being said, there's so much more you could have done. And honestly, it's really weird that they didn't. And it's also weird when you really look at everything else involved, like even reviews. Like, I think it says a 63 on Rotten Tomatoes, which is not even remotely close to how good this movie is. Like, it should really be up there higher, which also is one of the reasons I don't listen to Rotten Tomatoes anymore. But that being said, fantastic film. I think everyone should watch it. I just really wish they would have done more with it, because it had all the pieces, it had all the parts, and it was just a failed execution on Universal. But now, with this renaissance we have going on, I would really like to see more. Like, nothing would strive better from a legacy sequel than this. Just ignore Tomb from the Mummy Emperor. Just do The Mummy's Back, or The Curse of the Mummy's Hand, or whatever you want to call it, and it would work fine. You have Brendan Fraser retired, chilling at home. Bring back Rachel Weisz. Do not recast her, because that was the worst decision you made in the other movie. And just let them go. Bring in someone new if you really wanted to be the new Rick O'Connell. Like, you could bring they have a son in The Mummy Returns. Just do that. And honestly, it'd be really funny if they did do my idea and you brought in The Rock as the Wolfman, because how funny would that be? You have the Scorpion King come in as a different character, and the whole time Brendan Fraser's like, why does he look so familiar? And then we as the audience know, but he doesn't. But again, just something I would like to see. More of what I would like to see. And again, it's just an overall fantastic film. So if you've been with me this far, guys, thank you. Those are my thoughts on that. I would like to say, if you haven't, please like, share, comment, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your enemies, and be good people. Have a good one.